Humans have a strong tendency to return to their mistakes. That's right, you heard correctly. Humans like to go back to their errors, and this is dangerous, very dangerous. I'm sure you've seen people who have had everything go wrong with someone else, but they go back and insist on trying again, and it all goes wrong again. Or in that business, or in that place. My brother, humans have this tendency. Today we will address this issue. Stay with me until the end of this message. Open your heart to receive what God has to say to you in this specific message. In Galatians chapter 4, verse 8, the Apostle Paul says this. Notice that Paul is questioning them. Look, before, when you did not know God, when you were not known by Him, you were being enslaved by those kinds of people. Are you now letting all this happen again? Again you want to be enslaved? That is, are you returning to the same mistake? And this, my brother, is something we can see throughout history. Humans have this tendency. When the people left Egypt, they wanted to bring the customs of Egypt with them. They did not even want to detach themselves from Egypt, my brother. And you can see that they idolized, they complained, they continued with Egyptian practices and customs. And as we learned here a few days ago, for this reason, they spent 40 years in the desert, when they did not need to spend more than a few days. So people like to suffer, they like to return to error. That people were being enslaved until they then knew God, opened their minds, understood that they did not need to live like that, and left a mental slavery influenced by others. God knew them, and now they knew God. However, they were beginning to let the wrong customs and practices return. And Paul is asking, what are you thinking? Do you want to return to being enslaved? And if you continue the chapter, he will say that it seems like all the efforts he and the other Jewish servants made for those people had been in vain. Because those people, they were taught, they were cared for, they were treated, but now they were letting the customs come back all over again. They were wanting to regress back to the past, my brother. How many people are suffering in life because they cannot detach from this world? How many are suffering because they cannot let go of a relationship that has already failed several times? How many people are suffering in the world because they keep hitting the same wall, insisting on the same thing that has already failed numerous times, and they already understand that it's not for them, that they should not do it, but they continue? How many are suffering in the world because they persist in sin? They say they will stop and return to sin, they say they will leave and return to sin and continue suffering endlessly. And this has become a vicious cycle from which they cannot escape. They keep going round in circles, failing, returning, failing again. And they do not break free, my brother. You cannot accept being enslaved again by sin. You cannot accept being treated as you were before. No, my brother, you no longer belong to this world. Oh, but I'm hearing this message and I'm not a Christian, I'm not of God, I don't even believe much in God, my brother. Then look at your life and see how many times you've insisted on returning to the same mistake, thinking about going back to that same failure. Then weigh whether the Word of God is true or not, whether it makes sense or not, whether it is truthful or not. Look at the people around you and tell me if you don't see this situation repeating. Humans have this tendency, my brother, this tendency to want to return to their mistakes. Do as the Apostle Paul did, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before, I press toward the mark. The mark is Christ, the goal is ahead. I won't stay trapped in my carnal past, in my past full of sins, in my past full of errors and failures. No, I will move forward, I will break free, I will not go back. My life was a mess, I will not return. My life was full of wrongdoings, of disappointment, of sadness, I will not return. And be aware that the struggle will come trying to make you go back. The old habit, the old creature, as we also learn these days, my brother, stay tuned to the channel. Subscribe, hit the bell, otherwise, you're just missing out. The messages complement each other, God speaks a little more each new day. And if you don't subscribe and hit the bell, you miss out on the notifications, then you forget, life is crazy, and you'll end up missing the message. So, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, share this message with your family, in your family group, on your social networks. God is wonderful and He wants to use your life. God is wonderful, He wants to teach as He is teaching you now. Stop insisting on this mistake. You know it's not for you to go back there. You know it's not for you to return to that relationship. You know it's not for you to return to sin. I have better things for you, that's what God has for you, my brother. He has better things, that's what He's telling you, but you have to detach yourself. Don't insist anymore on returning to the error. Do not let this tendency in human nature dominate you. Don't let it make you take wrong decisions to regress. To return to your past, to go back to what you should not return to. Stand firm in the presence of God, proceed toward the goal like Paul. And if you are without strength, seek strength. If you are without wisdom, ask for it because He gives wisdom to all who ask. Everything you need is in God. Look forward, proceed toward the goal, because God will be with you. My brother, I am leaving one more message of faith and power here so that you continue to feed on the true gospel. May God bless you.